The applause starts before Nora Bell can decide where to put her hands. Dana Rourke stands at the microphone, one palm lifted toward Nora as if presenting a prize. Behind them, the ballroom screen changes from the closing slide of Nora's keynote to a gold and navy list of conference contributors. And one more round of appreciation for our volunteer, Dana says, who generously waived her fee. Nora's name appears under unpaid industry contributors. The signed speaker agreement names her fee. $14,000 for the keynote, $4,000 for tomorrow's workshop. 2 wet ink counterparts, both executed, are sitting in procurement's locked event file. Nora looks toward Simone Park, who has guarded those copies with the temperament of a bank vault. Simone touches one finger to the edge of her folder and gives Nora a tiny nod. Wait. Then Nora sees her husband at the client board's front table. Eli isn't looking at the screen. He's looking down. That frightens her more than Dana's announcement. Nora closes her fingers around the green grease pencil in her right hand. It is the same stubby pencil she used 20 minutes ago to box the number 611,000 on the screen. The annual linen loss at a 6-plant hospital laundry group before Nora's team changed the sorting sequence. $611,000, she had told the room. That's what you get when a 4-second mistake happens 10,000 times. People had taken pictures of that slide. One plant owner had leaned so far into the aisle that his conference badge dipped into his coffee. Now those same executives are applauding because Dana has told them Nora's work cost nothing. Dana reaches for her elbow. Nora steps aside to let a banquet server pass between them with a tray of sweating water glasses. The movement looks natural. Dana's fingers close on empty air. "Thank you," Nora says into the handheld microphone she hasn't surrendered yet. Her voice sounds almost ordinary. "I hope everyone who photographed the load sequence chart remembers the arrows run clockwise." A few people laugh. They think she is making a final joke. She sets the microphone in its cradle and walks off stage. Calvin Reyes, the audiovisual manager, catches her behind the black curtain. He is wearing a headset over one ear and holding 2 rolls of gaffer tape around his wrist like bracelets. "Your closing slide wasn't supposed to do that," he says quietly. "It wasn't my closing slide." "I know." Across the ballroom, Dana is thanking sponsors. Her voice has the bright, tireless quality she uses when a meal is late or a projector catches fire. Dana can make a delay sound like a benefit. It is one of the reasons the Regional Textile Services Cooperative hired her. Nora slips the grease pencil into the side pocket of her blazer. "Do you still have the final deck I uploaded?" Version 8, time-stamped at 11:42 last night. And the rehearsal version, version 7. Keep both. Calvin's eyebrows lift, then settle. Already did. Priya Shah appears through the curtain carrying a plastic crate filled with tangled charging cables, unused name cards, and 3 hotel bananas. "There you are." She looks at Nora, then Calvin, then toward Dana's voice. "Dana wants you at the sponsor lunch in 4 minutes." "Is that where volunteers eat?" Priya winces. "I didn't make that slide." "I know you didn't." The answer makes Priya look worse, not better. She grips the crate against her gray conference polo. "I thought Dana had worked something out with you." "What kind of something?" Priya glances at Calvin. He lifts both hands. "I'm furniture." "You're very judgmental furniture," she says. "I cost extra." Nora almost smiles. Then she sees Eli rise from the front table and excuse himself past 2 board members. He comes through the curtain with his tie loosened, as if he has been wearing it for 3 days instead of 3 hours. He kisses Nora's cheek. His lips barely touch her. "You were great," he says. "Was I free when you woke up this morning?" Priya studies the bananas. Calvin finds urgent business on his control tablet. Eli lowers his voice. "Can we talk somewhere else?" "That depends on the answer." "I didn't know she was putting it on the screen." It is a careful sentence, engineered to bear only the weight placed directly on it. Nora looks at him. "What did you know?" Dana's voice arrives before his answer. "I need my keynote star. She parts the curtain and beams at the four of them. Her fitted blue suit is immaculate, except for a crescent of pale dust near one knee, picked up while crawling under the registration desk that morning to reconnect a power strip. Dana does real work. That is what makes it difficult to dismiss her as merely dishonest. Nora, the Hartwell Group wants 5 minutes before lunch. They have 9 properties and a linen problem the size of Rhode Island. Dana laughs, then notices nobody has joined her. What? You listed me as a volunteer, Nora says. Dana's smile remains, but its warmth leaves. It's a recognition category, an inaccurate one. We are standing 6 feet from a client board. They were closer when you announced it. Eli rubs the bridge of his nose. Dana looks at him, and something passes between them too fast for Nora to name. Priya backs away. I'm going to put these chargers somewhere secure. Take a banana, Calvin tells her. For strength. Dana waits until they disappear into the service corridor. The sponsor pulled out. You know that. I know Allied Tunnel canceled its booth. $48,000, Nora. Booth, reception, 2 hosted sessions. I had to rebuild the whole conference in 11 days. And that changed my signature? It changed how your contribution is categorized until finance catches up. My contribution is categorized in the agreement. Dana's eyes flick toward the ballroom. She is always aware of who might enter a room, even when the room is technically a hallway made of curtains. Can you please lower your voice? Nora lowers it. You announced that I waived $18,000. The slide said, unpaid contributor. You added the rest. Because I was trying to make it sound generous. That worked. Eli steps between them without actually moving. Dana, you need to fix it. I will. We're going to fix all of it. She points toward the ballroom with 2 fingers. Right now, I have the board chair sitting next to the CEO of our largest client, and both of them want Nora at lunch. Could we get through the next hour without setting fire to the thing that pays all 3 of us? Nora looks at Eli. His company supplies RFID garment tags to 4 cooperative members. Dana's summit does, in a loose and uncomfortable sense, help pay him too. My agreement says the first payment was due 10 business days ago, Nora says. Dana's jaw tightens. I asked you to hold the invoice. You asked me to delay submitting it until registration closed. I did. Then I submitted it. Which I appreciated. My bank has an appreciation department. They've never accepted it as payment. Dana presses her lips together. For 1 second, exhaustion shows through the polish. She has a faint red indentation across her wrist from carrying a box of programs. Nora remembers Dana at Christmas, labeling leftover containers while everyone else talked, because disorder made her restless. Dana does not drift into mistakes. She organizes them. Lunch first, Dana says. Then we sit down with Simone. Simone already has the agreement. Of course she does. Both counterparts. That lands. Dana's gaze sharpens. The cooperative required wet signatures for outside speakers above $10,000. Dana had complained about the policy when the agreement was negotiated, then driven to Nora's office herself with 2 printed copies and a leaking cup of mint tea. 3 months earlier, she had sat at the narrow work table between Nora's analysts, reading each page while a test load of towels thumped in the demonstration dryer downstairs. 14 for an hour? Dana had asked. 50 minutes, 10 minutes of questions, and 3 custom case studies. You used to explain laundry problems to me over wine. You still owe me for the wine. Dana had laughed. And $4,000 for the workshop? Half day, 40 attendees. They leave with a plant-ready audit map, not a tote bag and feelings. That line's going in the brochure. Nora had taken out her green grease pencil. Ballpoint ink tended to skip on the waterproof load cards she used in plants, so the pencil lived in her hand like an extra joint. She boxed the 2 fees, checked the dates, and pushed both copies across the table. Dana had initialed beside each box. Happy? She'd asked. Accurate. You know those aren't the same thing. Dana had signed, Nora had signed, and Priya had carried both counterparts to procurement for logging before one was to be returned to Nora at the summit. Simone had emailed the receipt number that afternoon. Now Dana knows exactly where the documents are. The sponsor lunch takes place in a smaller ballroom where the hotel has arranged salads under silver domes, a choice Nora considers aggressively optimistic. Her place card reads, Nora Bell, Bell Process Consulting. Someone has crossed out volunteer speaker beneath it with a black pen. Simone sits 2 seats away. She is compact, silver-haired, and dressed in charcoal gray despite the July heat. She listens to the board chair discuss freight costs while cutting a cherry tomato into 4 mathematically equal pieces. Nora waits until the man beside her turns to answer a question. "Did you know?" Nora asks. Simone places her knife across the top of her plate. "I saw the contributors slide when you did. Dana says finance is catching up. Finance does not catch. It processes. Is my invoice in the system? It was entered Monday and placed on administrative hold Tuesday. By Dana?" Simone's eyes move briefly toward the board chair. The hold code identifies the event director. Reason: scope acceptance pending. My keynote just happened. I observed that. Does applause count as acceptance? Procurement prefers forms. Nora hears the dryness in her voice and understands it as kindness. "Why did you tell me to wait?" she asks. "Because if you had disputed the announcement from the stage, Dana would call it confusion. Confusion is fog. Records are furniture. Calvin, Nora thinks, would like her." Simone unfolds her napkin and refolds it along the original creases. "Send 1 email after lunch. State what was announced, state that you did not waive the fee, and request written correction. Attach nothing. You already have the agreement. I have several things." Before Nora can ask what that means, Dana taps a spoon against her glass. She introduces Nora to the Hartwell Hospitality Group as one of the sharpest operational minds in textile services. Her praise is specific and persuasive. She mentions Nora's work reducing rewash rates in tunnel systems, then quotes a line from the Keynote about mistakes that travel in clean bundles. Dana has always known how to make Nora sound valuable to other people. The Hartwell Chief Operating Officer asks whether Nora can audit 3 plants in the fall. Nora answers carefully, aware that Dana is standing behind the man's chair with one hand on it, smiling as if she has given Nora a gift. For 5 minutes, the work itself pulls Nora out of the fight. She asks about soil sorting and weekend staffing. The COO draws a rough plant layout on the back of his menu. His laundry director interrupts him twice, both times correctly. Nora begins to see the bottleneck. Then the COO says, "Dana tells me you're doing some pro bono outreach this year. Maybe there's a way to put Hartwell on that list." The room seems to tilt by 1 degree. Dana reaches for her water. "My firm has a limited training grant for qualifying non-profit facilities," Nora says. "Hartwell would be a standard commercial engagement." The laundry director looks embarrassed. The COO looks confused. Dana steps in. "That's exactly why we get the experts together, to clarify opportunities." Nora folds the sketched menu and hands it back to him. Clarity saves everybody time. After lunch, Dana is gone before Nora can catch her. Priya says she has been pulled into a hotel billing meeting. Eli says Dana is managing a crisis with the refrigeration at the evening reception. Simone returns to the procurement suite without inviting Nora. The conference moves around the problem with the efficiency of a river dividing around a rock. At 4:15, Nora sits on the edge of the hotel bed with her shoes off and sends the email Simone recommended. Across the room, Eli removes his conference badge and lays it on the desk. "You knew she wanted me to cut the fee," Nora says. He stares at the plastic badge. "She asked if you might." "When?" "Last week." "What did you say?" "I said she needed to ask you." "She didn't." "I know." Nora turns the green grease pencil between her fingers. There is a flattened place near the tip where she bites it during difficult counts. Eli sits in the desk chair. She's up for Vice President of National Programs. If this conference misses budget by more than 8%, the board can reopen the search. So she put my fee somewhere the board wouldn't see it. She panicked. Dana alphabetizes batteries. She schedules panic. His mouth twitches despite himself, then straightens. She thinks you can absorb it. My analysts can't cache her thoughts. I told her that. But you didn't tell me. He looks toward the dark television screen where their reflections sit several feet apart. Nora's laptop chimes. The reply is from Conference Accounting, copied to Dana, Simone, and the cooperative's chief financial officer. Payment cannot be released because the contracted services have been reclassified as a voluntary industry contribution. Please provide event director approval for any exception. A second message arrives before Nora finishes reading. Dana has canceled tomorrow's paid workshop and replaced it with a complimentary peer exchange. Nora boxes both messages on the printed conference schedule with her green pencil. Downstairs, through 12 floors of hotel carpet and cooled air, Dana is already changing the next number. The next number is 40. 40 plant managers have registered for a workshop Dana has just canceled without telling them. 40 binders are stacked in cartons beside Nora's rolling equipment case, each one containing a custom audit map Nora's analysts spent 2 weeks building. Eli reads the accounting email over her shoulder. What does exception mean? It means they rewrote the rule and invited me to beg. Call Dana. She's downstairs. Then let's go downstairs. Nora closes the laptop. You go. His expression shifts. Why me? Because this started with a conversation between you and your sister that excluded me. You can finish that conversation without using me as the table. Nora, I didn't agree to any of this. You agreed not to tell me. The air conditioner starts with a shudder. Eli reaches for his badge, misses the lanyard on his first attempt, and leaves it on the desk. I'm trying to help, he says. Then find out whether Dana intends to distribute my materials tomorrow. He pauses at the door. What are you going to do? Count my binders. The equipment case has 2 locks and a telescoping handle that sticks unless Nora kicks the bottom left corner. She opens it and checks every carton. The 40 participant binders are there, along with 6 facilitator copies, 2 boxes of route tags, and the laminated plant maps. The participant pages contain more than conference talking points. They include Bell process scoring methods, formulas her analysts refined over years, and blank diagnostic grids designed to lead plant managers through decisions in a particular order. The agreement allows distribution only during Nora's contracted workshop. She photographs the sealed cartons, then sends Priya a short message asking who has access to the morning breakout room. Priya replies immediately, Me, Hotel, Dana. Why? Please don't move my workshop cartons. 3 dots appear, vanish, then return. They're scheduled for Ballroom C at 6 a.m. Nora looks at the equipment case. The cartons in front of her are decoys, hotel-branded binders holding scratch paper for a later exercise. The completed participant materials were delivered separately to conference storage that morning. She puts on her shoes. The service elevator smells of coffee grounds and the faint chemical sweetness of carpet cleaner. On the second floor, 2 banquet workers steer a rack of glassware around her. She follows signs to the conference office, a converted coat room behind registration. Priya is inside, kneeling beside 4 open cartons. A green and white Bell process binder lies across her thighs. I didn't open them, she says. They were like this. Dana's temporary assistant is feeding Nora's route tags into conference tote bags. Stop, Nora says. The assistant freezes with a fistful of tags. Priya stands. Dana said the materials had been donated with the session. They haven't. The assistant sets the tags down so quickly that several slide onto the carpet. Nora checks the cartons. 2 facilitator copies are missing. She turns to Priya. Where are the red spine binders? Dana took one. She said she needed it for the substitute moderator. Who is that? I don't know yet. Nora takes out her phone, photographs the open cartons and the tote bags, then repacks the materials. I'm removing these. Priya swallows. The hotel's going to charge us for the room if the session is canceled after midnight. The room belongs to the conference. The content belongs to me. I know. I'm just telling you what Dana will say. The assistant busies herself picking up route tags. Nora closes the first carton. Who changed the status in the system? Priya rubs her thumb along the seam of her conference polo. Dana asked me to move you from contracted speaker to partner contribution. When? Tuesday. The accounting hold went on Tuesday. I didn't know it would do that. What did you think it would do? Change the badge report and the board slide. Nora stacks a second carton. Those aren't the same system. They feed from the same event code. Priya's face colors. Dana said we had to show more in-kind support after Allied Tunnel pulled out. She said your agreement was being revised. It wasn't. I know that now. Nora looks toward the assistant, who is listening with her whole body while pretending to align tote bags. Can you get me a hotel cart? Nora asks. Priya nods and leaves fast. Nora finds the missing facilitator binders 20 minutes later in Ballroom C, one on the lectern and one on a chair beside the projector. A man in a cooperative polo is photographing pages with his phone. May I help you? Nora asks. He lowers the phone. I'm Len. Dana asked me to facilitate tomorrow. Do you work in industrial laundry? Member engagement. Have you operated a tunnel washer? I've toured one. From the floor or the glass walkway? His smile weakens. The walkway. Nora holds out her hand. The binder. She said you'd released it. She was mistaken. He gives it to her. I was trying to prepare. I can see that. Please delete the photographs. His ears turn red. I wasn't going to distribute them. The agreement doesn't permit you to use them. I haven't seen the agreement. That makes two of us. Procurement still has my copy. Len deletes the images while Nora watches. His thumb hovers over the recently deleted folder. That one too, she says. He complies. Nora puts the facilitator copies on the cart. As she wheels it toward the door, she notices her workshop title still projected on the screen, Where the Clean Pieces Go Missing. Underneath, Dana has added, Facilitated Peer Exchange, Complimentary. Nora takes a picture. Dana catches her beside the service elevators. She's walking quickly with an ice bucket in one hand and 2 bottles of white wine tucked under her arm. Her phone is wedged between her shoulder and ear. I found it, she says into the phone. Yes, we'll have chilled bottles at the reception in 10 minutes. She hangs up and stares at the loaded cart. What are you doing? Removing my materials from your complimentary session. We have 40 people registered. You canceled my workshop. I converted it. You can convert a room, you can't convert my work. Dana sets the ice bucket on the carpet. This is exactly the kind of overreaction I was trying to avoid. Len was photographing my facilitator guide because he has to lead the discussion. He's toured a laundry from behind glass. He isn't teaching your methodology, he's moderating a peer conversation. With my title, my case studies, my maps, and my binders. Dana shifts the wine bottles against her ribs. Condensation darkens her jacket. Put them back. We'll talk after the reception. We're talking now. Fine. The board has already paid for Ballroom C. The attendees expect a morning session. If we cancel, I have to explain why. Tell them the contracted instructor wasn't paid. Dana's face stills. The elevator opens. A banquet captain sees them and presses the button to hold the doors. Dana gives him her conference smile. 1 minute, Marco. The doors close again. You want me humiliated, Dana says. I want my invoice honored. In front of the board. You chose the audience. I chose language that bought me 24 hours. You bought it with my name. Dana lowers the bottles into the ice bucket. One lands hard enough to knock against the other. Allied Tunnel pulled out because their new vice president thinks member conferences are vanity projects. The hotel wouldn't release the ballroom block. The board told me to solve it without reducing attendance or touching the expansion reserve. I solved most of it. By pretending $18,000 didn't exist. by moving one expense into in-kind support until I could cover it. You signed the expense. And you're married to my brother. I thought you would give me room. Nora grips the cart handle. You could have asked. I knew what you'd say. That isn't permission. Dana looks past her toward the closed elevator, calculating the minutes. Give me until the end of the conference. Let Len run a discussion. I'll restore the workshop fee when the Hartwell sponsorship closes. Hartwell thinks I work pro bono. I can manage Hartwell. That's the problem. Dana's mouth tightens. You know what your problem is. You treat every relationship like a process map. Box the number, verify the handoff, reject the load. People aren't towels, Nora. Then stop counting me as donated linen. For a second, Dana's expression breaks into something that might have been amusement under different circumstances. She picks up the ice bucket. If you remove those materials, I will document that you failed to deliver the workshop. You canceled it in writing. I rescheduled its format. Your system says canceled. My system also says you're a volunteer. Apparently, you don't trust it. The elevator opens again. Dana steps inside with the wine. Put the materials back before 6, she says, or the non-performance is yours. The doors slide shut. Nora stores the cartons in her room. They take up most of the narrow passage between the bed and the bathroom. Eli returns at 9 with a room service hamburger under a metal cover and an apology Dana has sent through him. She says she's going to fix the speaker list after the board meeting. What about the payment? She needs time. How much? She didn't say. Then she didn't send an apology. Eli sets the tray down. She said you took the workshop materials. They're behind you. He turns. All of them? The assistant had started putting my route tags in conference bags. Len was photographing the facilitator guide. Who's Len? The free replacement for $18,000 of expertise. Eli lifts the metal cover. The bun has collapsed under a toothpick with a decorative blue flag. I got fries. I see that. You haven't eaten since lunch. Nora takes one because refusing food would only turn the fry into a symbol, and the room is crowded enough. Eli sits on the edge of the bed. Dana says if tomorrow's session fails, the board may reopen the vice president search. Dana said the board can reopen it over budget. Both things can be true. She promised my materials to an unqualified moderator. I told her that was wrong. Nora waits. She's desperate, he adds. There it is. Nora sets the fry on the tray. You keep bringing me Dana's fear as if it's a bill I forgot to pay. She's my sister. And I'm your wife. This isn't a contest. It shouldn't be. He looks at the cartons. What do you want me to do? Stop carrying her offers. Stop asking me to absorb what she did. Tell me whether you knew she was going to classify the fee as in-kind support. I didn't. Did she say anything about Hartwell covering it? She said she was close to a replacement sponsor. When? Sunday, 2 days before the administrative hold. Dana had not panicked after the keynote. She had designed the reclassification in advance and used Nora's appearance to help close the sponsor, meant to repay her. Nora takes her laptop from the nightstand. What are you doing? Removing Dana's access to my Hartwell proposal. You sent one already? I sent a preliminary scope after lunch. She introduced you. She also told them I work for free. Eli walks to the window and pulls the curtain aside. The convention center roof glows below them, flat and silver under parking lot lights. If you cut her out, Hartwell may walk. If I leave her in, she'll use my contract to patch hers. He lets the curtain fall. Can you please wait until morning? Nora studies him. Did Dana ask you to say that? His silence answers. She revokes Dana's access. At 7 the next morning, Ballroom C is full. Dana has kept the session on the schedule. Len stands at the front beside an empty lectern, smiling with the strained optimism of a man waiting for someone else to bring the content. Attendees have pens, coffee, and conference totes containing blank notepads where Nora's audit guides were supposed to be. Nora watches from the open doorway. The Hartwell laundry director spots her. Are you coming in? I'm not leading this session. Your name's still in the app. Dana appears beside Nora. We had a syncing problem. The director looks between them. Do we have a workshop or not? We have a peer exchange, Dana says. A plant manager in the front row raises his hand. Where are the maps from yesterday? Len touches the microphone. It shrieks. Dana steps into the room. We made a format adjustment so the conversation could be more collaborative. Nora hears chairs shifting. People know when breakfast language has been served instead of an answer. The Hartwell director comes into the hallway. We flew our route manager in for this. I prepared the workshop, Nora says. The cooperative canceled the contracted version yesterday afternoon. Dana's smile turns sharp. There is a contractual disagreement. Then why is her title in the app? The director asks. Dana begins explaining. Nora leaves her to it. By 10, the session evaluations are already circulating among conference staff. Len's peer exchange has received an average score of 1.8 out of 5. 3 attendees have written versions of the same complaint, promised expert absent, materials missing. At 10:17, Nora receives an email from Dana stating that Bell Process failed to perform the workshop and may be liable for attendee remediation. At 10:23, Hartwell postpones its proposed plant audit pending clarification of Nora's relationship with the cooperative. At 10:31, Nora's office manager sends the weekly cash forecast. Without the conference payment, payroll will clear by less than $2,000. Nora opens the banking app and draws $25,000 from her business credit line. The confirmation appears with an interest rate that makes her jaw ache. She boxes the amount with her green pencil on the printed forecast. Then she walks to the audio-visual booth and asks Calvin for the rehearsal log. Calvin swivels toward the equipment rack and studies the ballroom feed as if Nora has asked him to surrender state secrets. The rehearsal log belongs to the cooperative, he says. I'm not asking you to steal it. What are you asking? To preserve it. That sounds less criminal when you say it. It's the calm voice. He pulls a keyboard toward him. On the left monitor, Dana is introducing a panel about wastewater heat recovery. On the right, file names stack in a conference directory. Nora sees her deck immediately. Bell_Keynote_V7. Bell_Keynote_V8_final. Bell_Keynote_V9_show. Open 9. Calvin does. Nora's original closing slide is gone. The volunteer list has been inserted in its place, along with presenter notes instructing Dana to recognize in-kind contributors. Who made the show version? Calvin clicks into the metadata. Conference administrator account. Dana or Priya. Both have credentials. When was it changed? 8:06 this morning. Nora points to the rehearsal folder. 7 was the version Dana saw yesterday? That's the one you rehearsed at 4:30. She requested 2 changes to the sponsor logo order and approved the run sheet at 5:12. Was my contractual introduction in it? Calvin opens the slide. Nora's name appears beside founder and principal consultant Bell Process Consulting. Below that, contracted keynote and workshop facilitator. Calvin leans back. That's pretty specific. Dana wrote it. I'm surprised she left the word contracted in there. She didn't plan to. He looks at Nora. You think the slide change was planned before today? The accounting hold went on yesterday. My event classification changed the same day. Calvin turns back to the monitors. I can lock the files from deletion under the event retention policy. It keeps show records for 90 days. Do that. If Dana asks why, tell her an outside contractor disputed the final deck. That outside contractor being you. The calm voice won't work if you keep adding details. He laughs once through his nose and clicks the retention box. Nora watches Dana on the left monitor. She's asking a panelist a sharp question about natural gas exposure. The answer is vague. Dana redirects him toward equipment payback periods and gets something useful for the audience. She is good at this. Nora wishes competence made people safer. When the panel ends, Simone is waiting outside the booth. You have a talent for appearing near locked rooms, Nora says. It saves steps. Simone leads her into a narrow hotel office with one table, 2 chairs, and a printer, large enough to have its own weather. Both signed counterparts of the speaker agreement sit inside clear procurement sleeves. Nora recognizes the small tea stain near Dana's signature. "You said you had several things," Nora says. Simone places a 1-page budget revision beside the contracts. Dana has moved Nora's fee from contracted education to donated professional services. The change improves the conference expense line by $18,000. A second line credits the same amount toward member-supported programming presented to the board. "She counted it twice," Nora says. "She used it twice. The accounting treatment will be determined by finance. Is there a meaningful difference?" "In my office, yes." Simone lays down another page. It is Nora's invoice with scope acceptance pending across the top. Dana claims the keynote differed from the contracted content and the workshop was not delivered. She replaced the final slide and canceled the workshop. "I have requested her documentation. Why is payment still frozen if you have the agreement?" "Because procurement can verify an obligation. Finance still requires acceptance or a formal override. Dana controls acceptance for this event. So she can create the dispute and then approve herself. Not indefinitely." Nora looks at the 2 contracts. "Can I have my counterpart?" After the event file closes, until then both originals remain here. Convenient. For you at the moment. Simone slides a yellow legal pad across the table. "I need a chronology, dates, actions, witnesses. Facts you could say while tired and angry without changing a word." "I can do that," I assumed. Nora takes out the green pencil. Simone looks at it. "Is there a reason you use that?" It writes on wet load cards. "We have pens. I trust this." That is not an answer procurement encourages. It's the answer procurement deserves. Simone's mouth moves at one corner. Then she points to the budget revision. Dana has until 4 to explain the reclassification. The expansion vote is scheduled during tomorrow's closing session. Will the board have your review before it votes? If my review is complete, and if it isn't, then the board decides whether to wait. Nora knows Dana well enough to hear the opening inside that sentence. At noon, the cooperative's client relations manager requests source permissions for all 3 Keynote case studies. Dana has told him Bell Process may have reused proprietary results without authorization. Nora sends the permissions, the anonymization approvals, and Dana's original email requesting those exact cases. At 12:40, one of the clients calls Nora's office and asks why the cooperative is questioning work completed 2 years ago. By 1, the client has postponed a fall audit until the conference matter settles. Celeste, Nora's office manager, delivers the news without drama. "We can move the route study forward," she says through Nora's laptop. "That fills some of the calendar." "How much?" "Maybe 9,000. Do it." "And the credit line?" "Payroll clears." That wasn't what I asked. Nora looks toward the hotel window. From the business center alcove, she can see attendees crossing the courtyard with conference bags on their shoulders. The keynote fee will cover most of the draw when it comes in. When. Celeste waits. Nora softens her voice. "I know. We kept the analysts through the slow quarter because the workshop work was signed. I know that too." "Then stop saying it like you're the only one who took the risk." Nora sits back. Celeste has worked with her for 6 years and can turn concern into insubordination without changing her tone. Nora usually values this. Today it feels like someone pressing a bruise to identify it. "I should have required the deposit before customization," Nora says. "Yes." "Dana was family." "Yes." That sounded worse. "It was supposed to." After the call, Nora walks outside. The hotel courtyard is hot enough to soften the conference badges inside their plastic sleeves. She buys an iced coffee from a kiosk and sits at a metal table that burns the undersides of her arms. Eli finds her there. He puts a folded sheet of paper beside the coffee. "Dana asked me to bring you this. Nora does not touch it. I asked you to stop carrying her offers. It's a payment proposal." From her or the cooperative? Just read it. The proposal offers $9,000 characterized as reimbursement for Keynote preparation if Nora confirms the workshop was withdrawn by mutual agreement. It requires her to accept a revised speaker agreement dated 2 weeks earlier and refrain from discussing the volunteer designation with board members. Nora pushes it back. She says that's what she can move without triggering a review, Eli says. The review is already happening. She doesn't know how much Simone has. Neither do you, Nora. No. He lowers himself into the chair opposite her. If she loses the promotion, she may lose her job. She'll lose authority over event budgets. That's not the same thing. You don't know that. Neither does she. She's using the worst possible outcome to recruit you. Eli unfolds the proposal, smoothing the crease with his thumb. What do you want from me? The same thing I wanted last night. I told her I wouldn't pressure you. You brought me a backdated agreement. I brought you $9,000. You brought Dana a chance to call me a liar. He looks away toward the courtyard doors. Nora's coffee has left a wet ring around the proposal. Green ink from one of Dana's handwritten edits begins to bleed through the paper. Eli notices it too. She used my pencil, Nora says. What? The day we signed. She borrowed it to initial the fee boxes. Nora, please. Look at the revision date. The date Dana wants Nora to accept falls before Allied Tunnel withdrew. If Nora signs, the new agreement would make Dana's story look like a planned family concession rather than a budget maneuver. Eli reads it again. She said legal drafted this. Did she say which lawyer? His face changes. Ask her, Nora says. He stands, leaving the proposal on the table. You could make this stop, he says. So could Dana. She's the one drowning, and I'm the nearest person she can stand on. He walks back into the hotel. Priya sits down in his empty chair less than a minute later. She carries no food and still wears her conference headset, though the wire is unplugged. I saw him leave, she says. That makes one of us. Priya places a folded production schedule on the table. Dana's initials appear beside Nora's keynote, workshop, sponsor lunch, and board recognition. Next to the workshop is a note in Dana's handwriting. Custom Bell process. Materials, paid scope. I print the run sheet every night, Priya says. I keep the marked copies because Dana changes things after the app syncs. This is from Monday. Yes. Before you reclassified me? Yes. Nora studies her. Why are you giving me this? Dana told the CFO I changed your event code by mistake. The answer carries hurt, but also offense. Priya can tolerate blame for many things. Incompetence is not among them. Did she tell you to change it in writing? Nora asks. Email. She said, move Bell to volunteer support before board export. Agreement revision coming separately. Do you have it? It's on the cooperative server. Then keep it there. Forwarding it to me will let her make this about confidentiality. Priya nods. Simone requested my full event change history 10 minutes ago. Give it to Simone. I'm scared Dana will fire me. Can she? She hired me. That wasn't my question. Priya twists the headset cord around 2 fingers. She can recommend it. Tell Simone you want the request documented and HR copied before you provide the history. You think that helps? I think it makes the next action visible. Priya looks at the green pencil beside Nora's coffee. Dana hates that thing. She borrows it whenever she needs something permanent. That afternoon, Dana requests a private meeting in an unused coat room. She closes the door and leans against it, arms folded. Her suit jacket is gone. A dark line of sweat marks the collar of her blouse. You sent procurement after Priya, she says. Procurement found Priya. You told Simone about the event code. I asked why my invoice was frozen. Calvin locked the Keynote files. Good. Dana closes her eyes. Do you understand what this board is like? Half of them think conferences organize themselves. They see centerpieces and name badges. They don't see me renegotiating freight elevators at midnight because a vendor brought equipment 6 inches too tall for the loading bay. I see it. No, you see numbers. You walk into a plant, circle waste, and everyone calls you brilliant. I solve 50 disasters before breakfast, and they ask why the coffee was weak. Nora hears the truth inside the complaint. You are good at your job. Don't patronize me. I'm not. Then help me keep it. Correct the record. Dana laughs without humor. Stand in front of the board and say I falsified a volunteer contribution? Say you reclassified a signed expense without authorization, pay the fee. Restore the workshop or reimburse the attendees. The result is the same. The result is accurate. There's your favorite word. Nora offers the settlement she has written. Full payment under the signed agreement, a corrected speaker record, a new date for the workshop with a deposit, and notice to attendees that the cancellation came from the conference. No demand for Dana's firing. No damages beyond the agreement. Dana reads it twice. You want me to confess publicly. I want the people you misled corrected publicly. I can pay you quietly. You damaged me loudly. Dana folds the paper into quarters. The board votes tomorrow. Once the expansion is approved, I can move money from the new program budget. You're proposing another false category. I'm proposing you get paid, with funds approved using the numbers you changed. Dana's face hardens. If you force this before the vote, Eli will know exactly who cost me my career. He already knows who did that. For the first time, Dana looks uncertain. Then she opens the door. Tomorrow, I'm telling the board this is a family billing disagreement and asking them to proceed. By evening, Eli has taken a room at another hotel. Nora sits alone between the unopened workshop cartons and finishes the chronology Simone requested. At the bottom, she boxes 4 items in green: the signed fee, the reclassification email, the altered deck, and the canceled workshop. A message arrives from Simone. Closing session, second row. Bring the settlement proposal and your pencil. Nora reads it twice. Down the hall, conference staff begin rolling tomorrow's board microphones toward the ballroom. Nora wakes before the alarm and finds one of the workshop cartons leaning against the bathroom door. She had moved it twice during the night and still managed to trap herself with it. The absurdity helps. She pushes it aside, showers, and dresses in the same navy suit she wears when she has to tell plant owners that their most trusted process is costing them money. The green grease pencil goes into her blazer pocket. Simone's requested chronology goes into a plain folder with the settlement proposal. Downstairs, the contributor screen is playing again near registration. Nora's name remains on the unpaid list. Priya stands beside the monitor holding a tablet and a cup of coffee she has forgotten to drink. I asked them to pause this slide, she says. Who said no? Dana. Did she give a reason? She said changing it before the board session would imply the original was wrong. That is how corrections work. Priya looks toward the ballroom doors. Simone copied HR on the request for the event change history. And I sent everything. Good. I threw up first. That can also be part of the process. Priya laughs into her coffee, surprised enough that some spills through the lid. The closing session begins at 9. Nora takes the second row aisle seat named in Simone's message. Calvin is inside the audiovisual booth, visible through the back window. When he sees her, he lifts a roll of gaffer tape in greeting. Eli's company badge is not on the supplier table. At 9:12, he enters alone and sits near the rear doors. He meets Nora's eyes, then looks toward the stage. It is more than he managed after the keynote and less than she wants. Dana opens with conference results. She moves through attendance, client representation, session ratings, and sponsor retention with assured precision. The failed peer exchange does not appear among the highlighted evaluations. Allied Tunnel's withdrawal is described as a late market adjustment. The conference budget appears 6% below target. A green bar on Dana's slide shows $41,000 in donated industry programming. $18,000 of it belongs to Nora. Dana has made the lie look like a successful strategy. Board members ask practical questions. Dana answers all of them. She explains how she protected the hotel commitment, replaced sponsor hospitality, and kept attendance above the prior year. She credits Priya for managing registration. She thanks Calvin's team for working through last-minute program changes. Then she advances to the national expansion proposal. Our pilot has shown that we can produce high-value member education while controlling outside costs, she says. With approval today, we can begin the spring regional series on schedule. The board chair, Russell Ames, turns towards Simone. Procurement review. Simone sits at a table beside the stage with the chief financial officer and two thick event binders. Pending, she says. Dana places both hands on the lectern. The remaining issue concerns a billing disagreement with one speaker. It arose from a family misunderstanding and does not affect the expansion model. Every word has been chosen for its size. Billing is smaller than falsification. Misunderstanding is softer than reclassification. Family makes Nora's contract sound like an argument carried in from somebody's kitchen. Russell looks toward Nora. Dana continues before he can speak. The speaker did not complete the full program, and the event team is still determining an appropriate payment. We can resolve that administratively after the vote. Simone closes the binder in front of her. The review is complete enough to address the figures presented, she says. Dana's fingers curl around the edges of the lectern. You told me the file remained open. It does. The relevant documents are verified. Russell gestures toward the microphone at Simone's table. Proceed. Simone carries a clear procurement sleeve to the lectern beside the stage. Calvin switches the ballroom screen from Dana's expansion slide to the document camera. I have both executed counterparts of the Bell Process Speaker Agreement, Simone says. The cooperative retained them under the event file pending return of the vendor's copy. She opens Nora's counterpart beside the microphone. The first page appears on the screen, large enough for every boxed number to show. $14,000 for the keynote, $4,000 for the workshop. Dana's initials sit beside Nora's green marks. Simone places Dana's counterpart next to it. The terms match. So do the signatures. This was not waived, Simone says. It was signed, delivered, and then reclassified. A chair scrapes in the front row. Dana turns toward Russell. The agreement was under revision. Simone lifts the settlement paper Eli had carried to Nora. A proposed revision was created after the dispute began. It carries a date preceding the sponsor withdrawal, despite metadata showing it was produced yesterday. The vendor did not sign it. Dana's face loses color. The chief financial officer leans toward his microphone. Who authorized the original reclassification? Event director credentials were used, Simone says. Priya Shah's event history and email records show she changed the category under written instruction from Dana Rourke. Dana looks at Priya, who sits against the side wall. Priya lowers her coffee, but does not lower her eyes. Russell studies the budget slide still visible on his monitor. Why does the Bell amount appear in both the reduced expense total and donated programming? Dana answers quickly. Because in-kind support offsets program cost. That is standard event reporting. Not when the support was never donated, the CFO says. We expected the agreement to be revised. By the speaker, through a family accommodation. Nora hears Eli shift behind her. Russell looks directly at Dana. Did Miss Bell agree to waive her fee? Dana pauses. It lasts less than 2 seconds, but she has spent the entire conference making pauses disappear. This one belongs to everyone. She knew we had a budget emergency, Dana says. That was not the question. No, she did not agree in writing. Did she agree verbally? Dana glances at Nora. She refused to discuss alternatives before escalating to procurement. Nora feels the pencil against her ribs, solid inside her pocket. Russell turns to her. Ms. Bell, will you answer a few questions? Nora stands but remains beside her chair. Did you deliver the keynote described in this agreement? Yes. Dana reaches for her microphone. The closing recognition slide was omitted from her final deck. Calvin's voice comes through the sound system from the booth. The recognition slide was added to the show file at 8:06 the morning of the keynote. The speaker's final deck is preserved with its upload timestamp. Russell looks up at the booth. And the version rehearsed with the event director? Also preserved. It identifies Ms. Bell as the contracted keynote and workshop facilitator. The board chair turns back to Nora. Why was the workshop not delivered? The event director canceled it in the accounting system and replaced it with a complimentary peer exchange. My proprietary materials were placed in that session without my permission. I removed them before they were distributed. The session remained on the schedule, Dana says. Ms. Bell chose not to participate. Nora takes the printed production schedule from her folder. Monday's run sheet identifies the workshop and custom Bell process materials as paid scope. Dana initialed it. Her cancellation arrived by email after the keynote. Priya speaks from the wall. That is my production copy. I can verify it. Dana looks as if Priya has struck her. Russell asks Nora, "What remedy are you seeking?" This is the question Dana has been preparing the board to fear. Nora could make it sound like a demand for punishment. Dana expects anger because anger would give her something easier to manage than paper. Nora opens her folder. Payment under the signed agreement, a correction of the public and board records identifying me as an unpaid contributor. Written notice to workshop attendees that the event director canceled the contracted session. The workshop can be delivered later under a new agreement with a deposit, or the cooperative can compensate attendees through its own process. Are you seeking damages? No. Dana's termination? No. Dana stares at her. Nora holds out the settlement proposal. Simone takes it to Russell. I offered those terms yesterday, Nora says. Dana declined because the correction would be public. Russell reads the first page, then passes it to the CFO. Eli stands at the back of the room. I need to clarify something, he says. Dana's head snaps toward him. Russell hesitates, then recognizes the supplier badge. Briefly, Eli's voice is rough. Dana asked me last week whether Nora might reduce the fee. I told her she needed to ask Nora. She did not. Yesterday, Dana gave me the revised agreement to carry to Nora and described it as legally prepared. Nora refused it. Dana's face closes. You're her brother, Russell says. Yes. And Ms. Bell's husband? Yes. Did Ms. Bell ever tell you she would waive the fee? No. Eli sits down. The CFO turns off his microphone and confers with Russell. Simone returns both signed counterparts to their sleeves, leaving Nora's visible beneath the document camera. The green boxes fill the screen while the board speaks in low voices. Dana stands alone at the lectern. For the first time all week, she has nothing to organize. Russell turns his microphone on. The board record will identify Bell Process Consulting as a contracted provider for this conference. The minutes will state the keynote fee and workshop fee specified in the executed agreement. Ms. Bell's name will be removed from all unpaid contributor materials, and conference attendees will receive a correction today. He looks toward the CFO. Finance is directed to process the completed keynote portion immediately. Procurement will determine the workshop payment under the cancellation terms, with no adverse performance finding against Bell Process. Nora's agreement requires full workshop payment when the cooperative cancels within 7 days. Simone has already boxed that clause on her copy in blue pen. Russell continues. The expansion vote is postponed until the financial presentation is corrected. Dana, you are removed from event budget approval pending management review. You will remain available to complete conference closeout. Dana nods once. Understood. The word comes out clean. She is still good at her job. Russell faces Nora. Ms. Bell, the board relied on an inaccurate description of your professional contribution. I apologize for that. Your restraint gave us the opportunity to correct the record from the documents. Behind him, Calvin changes the screen. Nora's name disappears from unpaid industry contributors. A replacement slide identifies Bell Process Consulting, contracted keynote provider. The correction feels quieter inside Nora than the insult did. The insult had arrived like heat. This settles like weight being lifted from one shoulder at a time. The Hartwell chief operating officer finds her after the session. Our audit conversation, he says. Was that real, or were we part of Dana's sponsor plan? The plant problem sounded real. He gives a tired smile. It is painfully real. Then we can discuss it after my relationship with the cooperative is formally closed. Standard commercial engagement? Very. His laundry director laughs. Good. Dana is waiting near the service corridor with her jacket over one arm. The vice president search is reopening, she says. Nora stops. They're keeping me as conference director. Simone approves every dollar. Priya transfers to member operations on Monday. That protects both of you. Dana looks toward the ballroom. Staff are already collecting the board microphones. Are you satisfied? No. What else do you want? I wanted you to ask me. Dana's expression twists. I knew you'd say no. You were allowed to hear no. That's easy for you. You say no, and people call it standards. I say no, and they find someone more agreeable. So you made me agreeable on paper. Dana looks down at the jacket in her hands. I thought I could put it back before you felt it. You put my name on a screen. I know. The admission is small and late, but it is the first thing Dana has offered that does not require Nora's signature. I won't work an event you control again, Nora says. Family dinners are separate. If you bring the conference into them, I leave. Dana gives a thin laugh. You already wrote the procedure. Yes. Accurate? Very. 9 days later, the cooperative pays the full $18,000 under the cancellation terms. It does not repay the interest on Nora's credit draw, restore the postponed client audit, or erase the week Celeste spent moving work around to protect payroll. Nora pays down the line anyway. The rescheduled workshop happens 3 months later under Simone's signature, with a deposit received before Nora's analysts customize a page. Priya attends from member operations and sits in the front with her own binder. Len participates from the floor and asks a surprisingly useful question about root accountability. Eli comes home before that, carrying his hotel bag and no request from Dana. I kept asking you to save her from the consequence, he says in their kitchen. I called it helping because that sounded better than choosing. Nora leans against the counter. You made me stand alone in a room where you knew the language. I know. I'm not ready to make that smaller. Then don't. He stays. Repair arrives through ordinary things, honest answers, uncomfortable dinners, Dana's name left out of conversations where it does not belong. On the morning the workshop deposit clears, Nora prints the ledger page and boxes the amount with her worn green grease pencil. Then she drives to a client plant where steam clouds the receiving dock and carts of clean sheets wait under humming lights. A supervisor hands her a fresh waterproof load card. Nora checks the count, marks the verified number, and passes it back. This time, the line says exactly what happened.